Welcome and thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I wanted to hop on here real quick and share with you a recent conversation I had with a family in regards to a mortgage renewal and high interest rates. Now, I know this is a topic many of us can relate to, and my hope is that by sharing this story with you guys, it'll help anybody else out there that may be going through a similar situation. As mentioned, a family reached out to me in a challenging situation. They had purchased a home a couple of years ago and their mortgage was now up for renewal, however, at a substantially higher interest rate. And that was making it really difficult for them to maintain their monthly mortgage payments. By reaching out to me, they were hoping to get any type of advice or guidance on strategies on how to maintain their monthly mortgage payments so they wouldn't lose their home. Selling was not going to be an option for this family. They were willing to do whatever it took in order to maintain their current home. So based on the conversation, we were able to come up with a couple of strategies, and those are the strategies that I wanted to share with you today. So the first strategy that we came up with was to rent out a portion of their existing home. So in a situation like this, you have the option to either rent out the main unit or the basement, whichever would make financially sense for your particular situation. For this family, it made the most sense for them to rent out the main unit and live in the basement because they would be obtaining the most amount of rental income on a monthly basis. That would help contribute to their mortgage payments. So for them, by renting out the main unit of their home, it would help them cover at least 60% of their mortgage, and the remaining 40% they would be responsible for. So this made it a lot more manageable for them. However, their home did not have a separate entrance, so it would make it difficult to rent out the top because both parties would be having to use the same entrance, which wouldn't be feasible for this family. We did, however, look into the cost on how much it would be to construct a separate entrance, but at this time it would be too costly for the family, so they weren't willing to make this type of investment. However, if your home is situated with a separate entrance, this can be a great way to earn extra income that can help you towards your mortgage payments. The second strategy we came up with was to increase our monthly income through additional employment. For this particular family, 3 of the members were working full-time and contributing to the mortgage payments. We had a discussion to see if either all 3 of those members or some of them would be able to take on additional part-time work in order to bring in additional monthly income. I know this strategy might not be suitable for everybody, especially in cases like if you have shift work where your work hours are scattered, it might not be as easy to add in additional part-time work. Or if you're in a situation where you have family obligation, like you have kids, it may not be easy to add it again may not be easy to add additional part-time work. However, if you are able to add in any type of additional part-time work, it's a great way, in my opinion, to add in that additional income that will help towards your monthly mortgage payments. The final strategy that we came up with was to actually rent out their entire existing home. So in this situation, they would rent out their entire home and look for another property to rent at a much lower rent cost in comparison to their mortgage payments. So that's the only way that this strategy would actually work. They would have to be able to find another place to rent that had substantially lower cost in terms of rent and utilities for them in comparison to their mortgage payments. So for this particular family, by renting their entire home, it would cover at least approximately 90% of their mortgage payments, and they would only be responsible for the remaining 10%. So by looking for another property to lease, they would now have to maintain the rent of the other property and the utilities plus the additional 10% that they would owe on their mortgage. Now, this type of strategy is not going to be ideal for everyone, and I do want to point out one important factor about this option, and that is that it can potentially be quite risky. And let me explain. So by renting out your entire home, you are now relying on that tenant to provide you monthly rent payments that's going towards your mortgage. Now, if for whatever reason that tenant does not make their monthly rent payments or misses a monthly rent payment, you are now responsible for not only your mortgage, but the rent of the other property that you're renting plus your utilities. So that can be a huge financial burden if this particular situation happens where you don't get your rent money, right? So that's why I like to point out all the different aspects of a particular situation, because it outlines the good and the bad so that you're just able to make an informed decision. Now, I'm not saying that this type of situation will happen, but I think it's just important to note so that you can be fully informed and know exactly what strategy you want to move forward with. Now, in my opinion, if I were in this particular situation, out of all the 3 strategies, I personally would go with strategy number 2, which was to find additional employment. Now, the reason as to why I choose this option is because I feel it's the option that I'm most in control of. Whereas the other 2 options, I'm now relying on other people to provide me with monthly income, and that can either happen or not if there's payments that are missed. Whereas in the situation where I'm looking for additional work, I'm in total control. I can work as many hours as I need to in order to bring in additional income to cover my mortgage payments. Now, I'm not saying that any option is better than the other. I'm just giving you my personal opinion on which option I think would be best suited for me. Whatever your situation is, you have to decipher what scenario would work best for you. I hope by sharing this story and the different strategies that we discussed, it'll help anybody else out there that's going through the similar situation. And if anybody else has any other strategies that they have used in this particular situation, please feel free to share in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.